Hello everybody, and thank you all for coming and joining us this evening. My name is Jane Flanagan and I am the Student Recruitment Officer at Tangent, which is Trinity's Ideas Workspace. Tonight's session is about giving you a little more detail into the Postgraduate Certificate in Creative and Cultural Entrepreneurship, what the course is about, who it's for, how one goes about applying to this course. So we are very lucky this evening to be joined by Dr. Carl Thomas, who is the Academic Lead for Innovation and Creativity in Trinity College. He's also the lead facilitator on this course, so thank you so much for joining us, Carl. I'll invite you to give us a brief overview of the course after the presentation. We're also really lucky to be joined by Noel Brown. Noel is a recent graduate of the last iteration of this course, which only just came to an end in June. So Noel is an actor, a writer, a director and a facilitator, and she'll speak a little about this course from a student's perspective. So again, thank you, Noel, for joining us this evening. Finally, we have Rosemary Denneher on the panel here as well, and Rosemary is one of our senior program directors or managers at Tangent. So thanks for joining in, Rosemary. Okay, let's kick off with our first slide. So the Postgraduate Certificate is a Level 9 qualification in Creative and Cultural Entrepreneurship. Who is this course for? So it's designed for graduates, those in receipt of a Level 8 honours degree, who are involved in the creative and cultural industries. Also those looking to uncover their creative value and seeking to create a sustainable career for themselves. For the self-employed and those employed in creative and cultural sectors wishing to foster innovation and enterprise in their organisations. For those creative people looking to upskill. For those that maybe have the idea, the talent or the passion, and the business idea, but maybe perhaps lack the business knowledge. What does this course offer to those people? Well, it offers the Level 9 qualification from Trinity College Dublin. It offers a unique combination of transferable and entrepreneurial skills, presentation and communication skills, teamwork and leadership, access to networking opportunities with potential collaborators, mentors and investors, skills to start up or to develop a business, a range of career development supports within Trinity, and professional one-to-one project mentorship. So some of the course themes, there's 3 modules in the course. The first module deals with innovation and creativity. The second module, creative and cultural enterprise development. And the third module is career pathways. How the program works, well, it's delivered part-time, fully online. It's delivered Monday and Tuesday evenings for the Dublin region. Now, when I say Dublin, anybody can apply, but we will give preference to those living or working in the Dublin area. And then it's on Mondays and Wednesdays for the Galway region. So again, people from anywhere in the Republic can apply, but there will be a focus on the Galway area, and preference may be given to those living in and around the Galway area. It's on for 24 weeks. 2 hours an evening, 2 evenings a week for, as I say, for 24 weeks. So the teaching and learning styles. So it's very much experiential adult learning, learning environments, workshops, masterclasses, group projects, presentations. Students work on teams on industry projects hosted by private or public enterprise partners. And again, those industries will be based more or less around the Dublin and Galway areas. There are no exams as such. There will be reports, presentations, case studies, some written reflection work, and also there'll be a lot of peer-to-peer learning. So we do try to get our students to bring them from a diverse range of backgrounds so that there is really great peer-to-peer learning there as well. So these are just some of the industry and stakeholder engagements that we've had to date. So they've been engaged with Tangent in the form of expert seminars, workshops and panel discussions. So just some of the people that we have worked with in the past. So how does one go about applying? So all applications must be done on the Springboard portal, and you'll find that on springboardcourses.ie. There are 6 documents required for a full application, unless you are applying as an RPL candidate. RPL candidate is somebody who doesn't have the Level 8 honours degree, but can demonstrate recognition of prior learning. So you need the statement of interest, which is 500 words, the CV, how your skills and experience line up with the course and the course content. So if you have that Level 8, we will need a copy of the parchment. The eligibility details. So again, if you're on some kind of social welfare payment, a copy of a recent receipt, or perhaps you're in employment, so maybe a letter from your employer or a copy of your P60 or a recent payslip, something that proves whether you're either going to be fully funded by Springboard or 10% funded. Sorry, 90% funded, and you pay the 10% fee. We need 2 references on headed paper. And again, that recognition of prior learning in certain cases. So as there will be places for RPL candidates, but a little less, we will be giving preference to those people who have demonstrated that they have completed that level 8 honours degree. So a little bit about what our students say. Our first iteration of this course has just come to an end. So this is just some of the feedback about the course. It has been an inspirational experience participating in Creative and Cultural Programme. From the support, the good nature, and the fun shared with all of my fellow students, it's been an epic journey. And that's from Noel. Thank you all for your inspiring lectures. It was great to see that not all business is focused on one type of result. It resonates in particular with many of us creatives. And that's from Denise French. It has been an amazing course, so much peer-to-peer support and many laughs, every contributor playing an important part in this very well-run course. And that's from Susie Fortune. Thank you so much, Carl, Gillian, Joanne, Tara, and all the great tutors for delivering such an inspiring and fun programme. I'm sad that it's now finished, but now we will be able to apply the great information and take the world by storm. That comes in from Donna McGee. And thank you to all the team involved and all the lecturers for their insights and their shared knowledge. So that's from Peter Baxter. So a little more about Tangent Trinity's Ideas Workspace. If you want to go on to our website, you'll find more information about our various pursuits, about our accelerators, our courses that are on offer at the moment through Springboard. Yeah, there's links to Tangent TV where you can follow us and learn more. So do feel free to visit our site if you have any questions. If you have any questions regarding your application this evening, so anything regarding, whether is this the right course for me, I don't know if I have the right documents or a little clarity around what exactly you need, please do direct them all to me after this seminar. So you can get me on Springboard at tcd.ie. As I say, I'm the Student Recruitment Officer here at Tangent. My mobile number is also listed there. It's listed all over the Springboard website on our courses that are up there as well. So please do send on any questions you have or give me a call anytime between 9 and 5:30 any day of the week. Or I should say the 5 days of the week. I might not take it on a Saturday or Sunday. Okay, so thank you. Short presentation as a quick overview of this course. I might ask if you, maybe Carl, if you wouldn't mind giving us a short overview of the course. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how this course differs to other postgraduate courses that deal in creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, maybe what people should expect from a course like this.
Okay, well, I think probably one of the first things that and I'm conscious that Noel is there, so I'm expecting lots of nodding, but I think one of the first things we do on the course is we challenge a lot of assumptions. We challenge the assumption of what a creative is, the kind of opportunities that are available to creatives and I suppose some context. I've lectured in fine arts courses. I have a fine arts background as well as a business background. So I'm quite conscious of some of the elements that we adopt as part of our creative persona. And sometimes that creates obstacles for us becoming, for us accessing the business environment. So one of the early stage elements that we try to do is sort of deconstruct some of that. Help people to recognize their perception of value and financial remuneration for the work that they're producing. So that's a major point in the early stage of the course. There's a thread of the design thinking model weave through the course. So we'll be looking at elements like empathy, define, ideate, prototyping, and testing, how to apply them as a creative. We look at elements like customer discovery and customer validation, getting a real sense of what the product is that you're producing. And sometimes the language around being a creative and being an entrepreneur can be, there's a degree of conflict there, and sometimes there can be resistance around that. But some of this requires that we shift some of our own perceptions as creatives to recognize that what we're producing sometimes is a product. And if we think about it as a product, then we can start to think about it within the context of a product ecosystem. So where does it fit with our clients' wants and needs? What problems does our product in particular solve? some of the other elements that we look at in the context of the course is a skills audit, or a product audit. So sometimes, and I think one of the best examples of this that came out of the last course was a ceramicist who is now designing stunningly beautiful urns, and has set up a business and set up a business website, and is now not just thinking of herself as a creative ceramicist, but is thinking of herself as a ceramicist who's also a business person, and finding a way to capitalize on that skill set in a way that has definable value. And what I mean by that is that you can put a price on it rather than it having a slightly more esoteric creative value that the vast majority of people find it difficult to understand. We do a lot of work around reflection and personal growth, certainly on the first module of the course, in terms of, as I said, challenging our own assumptions of ourselves as creatives, what we can do and what we can't do. There are a certain sort of list of characteristics, and I very distinctly remember myself and Noel discussing the financial element, how we go about being in charge of our own finances as a creative person. And, you know, sometimes this is a case of engaging with that growth mindset element, that just because you haven't done it previously doesn't mean you're not capable of doing it. You may not want to do it. And as a creative, and as you know, a creative sort of blurs the lines between being a creative and a business person. My preference is to avoid finances. I would have thought in the past that I couldn't do it, but now I know I absolutely can do it. It's just that I have a preference to not do it. And they're the kind of elements that we kind of look at. And certainly there's, and I think you mentioned it in there as well, the networking element. We encourage people to become proactive as entrepreneurs. Certainly on the kind of the fine arts courses that I would have lectured on, there's almost a passive element to it, that you go out, you produce your work, and that's what you do. Whereas now we encourage people in the entrepreneurial context to become proactive about it, to get out there and knock on the doors and put your work where people can see it, create visibility. You know, in the context of visibility, acquisition being sort of the first two steps on that customer or client journey. So it's about being very, very personally proactive, identifying your goals, setting the journey in place, stage gating your goals. And you know, all of this sort of happens across module 1. And I think there's a big element of growth for people in it. There is resistance, but you are hugely supported, not just by myself and the team, but by your peers in the group. And that's where, to me, we do 50% of the work. The other 50% is that shared learning experience that happens among people who are similar to yourselves, who are, and very often at times, who are different to yourselves in terms of the kind of experience they have. So there's learning coming at you from pretty much every angle on this course. And I would say that, you know, even that 50% that you gain from your peers is every bit as valuable.
And should one have an entrepreneurial idea in the back of their head before joining a course like this, or?
No. Do not feel hamstrung by that expectation. There's no, people have some sort of inkling of an idea, that's fine. What we tend to find in one of the sort of really strong elements of entrepreneurship is the pivot. So some people will arrive in with an idea, start to test it in the space, start to apply the design thinking model, start to apply the business model canvases that we'll be looking at, and discover that actually that idea doesn't necessarily have financial viability in a business context, but there's a way to tweak that and pivot with it and then find another way to position it. And again, this is sort of part of that skills audit or product audit element. You know, you will learn how to test your ideas, but people arrive in with absolutely no idea. People, again, arrive in saying, look, I have this skill set, but what do I do with it? I am a creative. I produce paintings, or I produce, you know, literature, I produce films, but where do I go with that? How do I turn that into a business? And that's, I love working with those people who come in almost blank slates.
Yes, yeah. Very good, very good. Okay, I might go to you, Noel, if you don't mind, and thank you again for joining us. So it's great to have you here as the voice of the student, given that you have just come to an end of your 5 or 6 month course. And I suppose maybe if I could ask you a little about your own experience of doing the course. What made you decide to do this course maybe than other courses to begin with?
Well, I kept seeing it flashing up on social media, and I kind of would go, oh, no, not that, not that. I was just frightened. I was really frightened. And but I knew there was something that was drawing me to it as well. But a friend of mine who works in business said, you should do that course. She said, you are creative, you have all these skills that you haven't even, audited. You don't know what they are, and how important they could be in a business environment, for instance, because I'm 33 years working, in the arts. So it was that push that made me do it. And I made a call, I rang and said, I know, just asking about this course, I'm probably not the right person, immediately was like, no, you are actually, so please apply. It was the best decision I could have made on so many levels. And it's great to hear Carl talk about the personal growth element, because that's a huge part of it. I thought it would be all academia, that I would get lost in it, that I would be out of my depth. It's so, well structured. You get a real, you can track your progress through the reflections and everything else. You get a sense of where you're going, where you started. I came on the course with one word, which was, I'm looking for clarity. And I didn't know what that meant even, but I knew I was struggling. I had othered business people were othered to me. I didn't understand them. They were separate to me. Even though I'd been running my own business, I'd been running a theatre company, for 8 years. I didn't see myself as a business person, or that I had any of those skills. And there were gaps that I needed to learn, knowledge. So I went in there looking for clarity, and we were led all the way through into finding our skill sets, developing business skills, tracking our own personal growth, being nurtured. It was a great place to be surrounded by other creatives, and to feel that it wasn't a dirty word, and that we could talk about money and we could debate. So it was very different to how I imagined it would be. I thought I would be sitting in the back of the classroom just taking notes, and kind of, getting a piece of paper at the end of it going, well, there you are. But it was so interactive, even the workshop element of it, that you're up on your feet. The range of tutors, would just tap into something someone would say, or you'd go, oh yes, or lead you to further reading or whatever. It was the best decision I've made in a long time, and I'm really glad I did it. And particularly in the present climate, little did we know what was going to happen in January. That the art sector is obviously in disarray at the moment, to say the least. But I'm coming back into that world now with a whole new skill set, that most of which I gained in lockdown. But it's a fantastic course, and I'm so glad I made a decision to do it.
And have you been able to implement some of the skills that you've acquired from doing this course? Like, how has it changed how you, I suppose, manage your profession, or manage the theatre company, or are you looking into ways of doing that now?
Well, I'm less afraid of budgets. It's like Carl said one day in class, it's not that you can't do budgets, you just don't like doing them. I have a better response to things like that. It's taken the fear away around a lot of things. I'm more proactive. I'm not afraid about conversations around money. I know my worth, and I'm not afraid to ask for finances. I feel more empowered, and mostly it is that feeling of changing my perception around my creativity and what I have as a commodity and what I have as a business idea. And it's given me the confidence to talk about it. Whereas before I would have gone, oh, I can do all these kind of things, but it's actually getting a real change of perception around my worth as an artist and as creative. And that's something I couldn't have gained without doing the course. So, you know what I mean? As well as processing the last 6 months, there's still stuff, you know what I mean, that I'm thinking about on the course that keeps trickling through every day. But it's given me a sense of empowerment and confidence that I actually didn't have as a creative, which I wasn't really aware of. But I feel much more capable in terms of balancing business and my creativity, and thinking in a business-like way, and not being afraid, and feeling there's the business world and there's me. There are crossovers, and as one of the tutors said, they're people just like us, you know what I mean? We're not all that different. And that was a huge leap for me, I think. It's given me organizational skills. It helps me plan. It helps me set goals and follow them through. And I know those are basic things, but there were things I lacked in some ways. I was a very hard worker. I was very effective at what I did, but I wasted time in terms of a lack of a sense of how to plan really, really effectively. And I think that's, again, one of the huge skills that I've learned.
Thank you, Noel. That's brilliant. So I suppose, yeah, your final word of advice for anybody thinking about applying.
Do it and commit to it. And when it gets hard, stick with it, because it is challenging on every level. But the sense of achievement afterwards, it's so worth it. And you meet extraordinary people, from tutors to other creatives in the room from so many different disciplines. And they're, you know, fantastic people that you could collaborate with and work with, but also knowing socially, and that you're in it together. And there's a lovely mixture of age. That was the other thing that worried me. I thought, will I be the oldest in the class? It's such a range of people and ages, and it's so diverse. If you're thinking about it and you're kind of, you know, not sure, just do it. You won't regret it. That would be my advice.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Noel and Carl. We might ask our audience here this evening if they have any questions to pop them in the Q&A. You should be able to see the Q&A on your screen. If not, there should be a chat function. I see we have, do we have anything in here? Thanks for organizing this. No problem, Ronan, and you're very welcome to. Thank you for joining us. Can you? There's
a couple of questions there, Jane.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm gone off camera. I'm being creative because my broadband isn't fantastic. So at the risk of dropping out altogether, I've just gone off camera. So apologies, everybody. There's a couple of questions in here. I'll try and answer them, Jane, if you like, regarding really admissions. And I think
sure.
Asked for the requirements slide back.
Yeah, the slide. Yeah, so I'll get that for you now. Just bear with me.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I just say to people, first of all, thank you very much, Carl. A great insight into the course, and Noel. And I love. My takeaway is Noel's advice: just do it. As Nike said, just do it. So I love that. In 3 words, just go for it. And for those that were asking in relation to the recognition of prior learning. So we appreciate that not everybody comes, you know, with the standard entry requirements, if you like. So Trinity do have an overarching, I suppose, policy in relation to how we assess candidates who do not have the standard entry requirements. I'm going to post a link to that in the chat box. But I suppose just to say, it can be a bit scary looking for people. So just to say that myself and Jane look at, with the committee as well, we assess every single applicant, full applicant that comes into us. So if you get all of your documentations in, you will be considered for a place on the course. And even before that, if you talk to Jane specifically, she'll be able to guide you, in, you know, based on what you have and what you've done previously, what's the best way to go about that application. It is a little bit different. They're assessed and reviewed differently. And essentially, I guess all we're trying to do, or what we're trying to do, is to, you know, assess whether each candidate will, you know, benefit from and be able to succeed on the course. And that's what we look at. So we look at your, what we would call your prior learning, and try and recognize that. So be it prior certified learning, prior experiential learning, wherever that's coming from, and try and map that, if you like, in terms of the entry requirements, and see then are people eligible. The other
that's it. It's
just important to say, sorry, in relation to the RPL is, and Jane will talk to it, we do have there's a different closing date, or the closing date is earlier for those who wish to apply under the RPL route. So we'd ask those students to get that application in as quick as possible, because it's just a different process that it needs to go through.
That's it. So there's a week. The closing date for application for this course is the 13th of August for RPL candidates. For those in receipt of the level 8, the closing date is the 20th of August. So we do need those RPL applications in 1 week prior. And I guess, yeah, as Rosemary said, we're just aligning experience. This is a postgraduate academic program, and we're looking to see if your past experience and, you know, any continuous development will align with the course content and so on. But please give me a call, drop me an email. I'm here. I'm going through the applications on a daily basis, and I can guide you, as Rosemary said. So do we have any other questions? Let's see. Ronan is asking, is applying for both? Yeah, Yes, so you can technically apply for multiple courses. So we do have a few courses open for application on Springboard at the moment. I guess what we want to see as well from the application is, what is it about? All the courses have a different focus. So what is it about this particular course that makes you want to do it? You know, and we'll be looking to see how your experience aligns up with the course content of that particular course. So yes, you can. There's nothing stopping you from applying for multiple courses, but perhaps you will have a preference, and you know, you should demonstrate that in your application, because there's no point in putting you on the wrong course, and we will be looking.
I think Ronan means, it's just popped up there, the should he apply for Dublin and Galway?
Oh, sorry. Okay, apologies, because we actually have a couple of other programs as well happening, and they're open for application on Springboard at the moment. So you can, but preference will be given for those people that live or work in the Dublin or Galway area. So whichever you're closest to, whatever you're closest to geographically, is the one that you should apply for.
I think what's going to be really important about applying for something that's, you know, geographically close to you is the host project. If you are based in Donegal and you've signed up for the Dublin course, then your capacity to interact with the Dublin host companies will obviously be limited. Even in the sort of digital existence that we're kind of living in at the moment, or virtual existence, you will find that it's going to be much more beneficial for you to apply for the course that's, you know, geographically closest to you.
And I think as well, in terms of the benefit of applying for both, which is double the work, you know, administratively for the applicant, you know, you will be considered alongside everybody else who applies. So I imagine, you know, chances are if you secure a place on one, you'd secure a place on the other, if you like. So I think one application, you know, with the area, with the preference area in mind, would be preferable, if that makes sense. There was one other question there, Jane. It was just in relation to references. So ideally, we are looking for, you know, a previous, like an academic reference and a professional reference, but that's not always possible. And certainly with people who have been out of, you know, maybe education for a while, we recognize that that's not always possible. So again, we're just, you know, we're looking for, again, it comes back to, if you like, you're trying to evidence really in your application why you would be, you know, a good fit for the course, and what, you know, why you should get a place on the course. So anything that you can do to support that application. So we do take the references from a wide source, but preferably from, you know, possibly a former employee, a professional colleague, or somebody in an institute, you know, where you've studied previously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is, we do say one academic and one professional, but they can be two professional if you've done your degree a long time ago, or you're applying as an RPL candidate. To professional, they should be on headed paper and ideally speak to why you're a good candidate for this course.
I think it's probably just worth saying, Jane, as well, again, that really if somebody has an unusual circumstance, just to talk to us, because you know, we can normally give a much more detailed and one-to-one answer, certainly in terms of the application, because I know that we do have a lot of people on the courses who don't maybe fit the standard entry requirements. So Jane can certainly talk anybody through that. I'm just looking at a couple of queries there in relation to entry requirements, so we're very happy to take those individually.
Absolutely. And I'll just put up that slide again for anybody that wants to have a look.
I wonder, would it be worth asking, and I'm not sure whether people would be willing to give the answer, but if there is anything that people are on the fence about, that they think that, you know, as Noel mentioned, there was some level of hesitation, maybe we could resolve some of that hesitation at this stage. But again, maybe not everybody's comfortable to offer that at the moment.
It's a really good point, Carl, and I'll say from the other side of the fence, I mean, having been, you know, both a facilitator and a student on one of these courses, there is a huge level of trepidation. I think that Noel mentioned today, both in terms of, you know, will I be able, is it the course for me? What's the class going to be like? What's the class dynamic? Certainly thinking you're going to be, you know, the oldest in the room or the least qualified in the room, and all of that. And I think it's something certainly that well, I know on induction and on the first few sessions that a lot of that is ironed out. So if we can put anyone's mind at ease, let's say, in terms of, you know, their ability to be able to succeed in the course, I think Carl's probably the person there to do it. I'm looking at the picture with you having them all lined up in the room.
I just saw Ronan's comment there about worrying about being considered a messer. I tell you, he'll be in good company, and if I'm in the room, then the likelihood is he certainly won't be the biggest messer in the room. So that's not something that should hinder your application at all.
Messers, welcome.
Yeah, that image you mentioned there, Rosemary, was from an exercise we were doing on customer context. One of the exercises was around space and getting a sense of understanding how our customers experience the different products and services we might produce. So one of them was around space and how we inhabit space. And one of the best ways we could do that was literally to get everybody into, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 squares of carpet across, and then make them stand there for about 5 minutes and reflect on the experience in that space. Because one of the things we like to do when we're generating products is to, and certainly this is what I do with my clients, is to try and get into as real a replication of the actual experience. So it's how we understand the language our clients use and how we understand their experience in the space. So yeah, that was just a quick exercise in that. I think the heat was the biggest challenge for the groups in that evening. But I certainly don't think we'd get away with that at the moment.
I think that's why it sprung to mind. You're looking at, you know, any group now. I'm looking at this group in this very tight space, and I'm going, yeah, we'd be arrested if we did it right now. But,
yeah, and that was in March, if memory serves, certainly February or March, before the world slid.
It's worth mentioning that this course was 40% online before, obviously, COVID, and now it is being delivered fully online. But we have had many months to get used to the remote working, and the course has been designed specifically to, you know, to be delivered online to a high standard. But yeah, it is different, slightly different from the last run of the course for that reason.
Ronan wants to know, was it Ireland's first cluster group, potentially?
We'd never accept responsibility for that.
Very good.
So has anyone any other questions there that we might be able to help with?
We don't have any questions coming in from any other platforms. And perhaps you want to go away and have a think about it, and if something pops in tomorrow into mind, you know, drop me an email or phone call and we can iron them out.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe put back up your slide, Jane, with just the contact details, and we'll
Yep.
let everybody take a note of them, and very happy to talk to people.
There we are there. So we have a question here. I'm already on a Springboard course from last year. Will that help or hinder the application? Yeah, it's going to hinder it, I'm afraid, because it's impossible. You need to be totally finished with one course. So that means that all results are published. that Springboard has been updated, your status on Springboard has been updated to complete successful, or that you've completely finished the course, and only then can you apply for another course. So if all of that isn't ironed out beforehand and you miss the delivery date, or the application deadline, I should say, then you won't be able to apply. And there generally is like a 3 to 6 month window between finishing one course and starting another course on Springboard. So that may well hinder your application.
Could we possibly go back to that group photograph just for a second, just to give people a sense of the scope of creatives who are in the group?
Of course. So.
And just while you're doing that, sorry, Carl, just somebody else there is saying around their application where they're already enrolled. I mean, it really does depend on the length of time. I guess from the Springboard portal point of view, you need to be off the system as complete. So I guess that happens as soon as ratified results go out, which is after an exam board in the institution that you did that you did your course. So it may be worth following up depending on how long it is since people have finished that previous Springboard course. You know, it may be just a lag in the administrative time, but you will need to be off the system, or out of the Springboard system as complete one course before you apply for the next. So that's definitely something to look into for those people.
Yeah.
Effect.
Yeah, a call to maybe the course provider should be able to clarify that, because
yeah,
they'll know when the results are all published and sent out to everybody, and then it's a matter of updating Springboard.
So just I know in the last course, a few people said in the early stages, I didn't really think what I did was a fit for the course. So it might be just useful to give a sense. I think this is cohort B from last year, if I'm not mistaken, in that there is a portrait painter, a digital media professional, a literary professional who's a PhD in their space. You've got 2 yoga teachers that I can see. I see a radio DJ. I see 2 graphic designers. I see content writers. And there's a musician in there as well. But we had puppeteers on the course last year as well. There's an incredible scope of people. There's also people involved in stop motion photography and stop motion filmmaking in that image as well. So there's a classical musician as well. There's a huge range in terms of the kind of creative practices that people are involved with that show up on this course. So you will probably find people at the total opposite end of the spectrum, and people who are probably quite similar to you as well. And obviously that serves to facilitate the networking. There's 2 ceramicists from cohort A and cohort B last year who've now come together, and they're sharing their pool, their networking pool, and finding really interesting success out of that as well. So yeah, I certainly would suggest to people that if there is any sense of am I the right creative fit for this, then the likelihood is if you have any form of creative practice that you're wondering if it's possible to turn it into a business format, then there's probably that path has probably been tread before, so you'll be in good company.
And just to say as well, so we have 32 places available on the Galway and 32 on the Dublin. So that's 64 places available on this course, and another couple of weeks to apply. So do try to get your applications in early.
Yeah, so even just on that, last year we were running 1 course and it was so oversubscribed that we ended up running 2. So I would definitely recommend staking your claim as early as possible on that, so as not to miss out, because there were people who had an interest in the course, and there were people who joined later as well. So there's usually a bit of a backlog there. So yeah.
And just to reiterate that point for whoever is on and is seriously thinking of applying, the advice will always be the earlier you can get your application in, the better. It just allows us time then, you know, if there's something not right, to be able to go back to you, and it's just, you know, you'll have your place secured. Then most of the courses that we run are oversubscribed. So we do have to go out after the closing date and tell people that they haven't got a place on the course, and it's not a nice place to be, either, you know, from our point of view or their point of view. So the earlier the application can come in, you know, absolutely the better. And I'm just going to go back to Carol's point about the diversity and the array of people on the course. So when we were looking at the applicants last year, and I'm not from a creative background at all, and I didn't know that there was that many creative fields. And I think in the end, we had at least one from every single creative industry that I could think of. And it was mind-boggling how many different strands, if you like the word, to these applicants. And as I said, from somebody who's not from the creative industries, I certainly learned a lot. I'm sure, Carl, you learned a lot on the course from the different, you know, the diversity and the mix of people we had on. So I think thinking it's not for you is not the right way to be thinking. It probably is.
A few new questions coming in here. Can the creative practice be in ideas rather than something tangible?
Absolutely. So we had people on the course actually last year who didn't have very well-defined creative practices, and they had a leaning slightly more towards the entrepreneurial end of the creative process, and facilitating creatives as well. So my PhD is in critical thinking as much as anything else, and that's, so certainly we'd welcome people with creative mindsets. I specialized in conceptual art at one point in college, so I love creative ideas. And bear in mind as well, this is creative and cultural entrepreneurship. So it's not just about the definable specific creative practice, it's also about the cultural element as well. And for some people on the course, they came in with creative ideas. I don't think I'm giving anything away, but one person's talking about creating a literary festival. And hosting that all over the city essentially, and having sort of pop-up literary events happening. So yeah, I mean, creative ideas are absolutely within the spectrum of what I'd expect to be working with on this course.
Thanks for that. We have Jacinta Kendrick completed this new Trinity College Springboard program a few weeks ago. A great experience. It was challenging in a good way, mind expanding and enjoyable. If you were thinking of doing a course, I would highly recommend it. The academic pandemic. I like that. I like that hashtag, Jacinta. Thank you. You can see that trending. When is it likely that you might hold a face-to-face program? Well, at the moment, we don't know. So we're kind of going on government guidance and the Trinity directives around social distancing. Of course, we would love to be able to host people in our beautiful space in tangent to Trinity. But at the moment, these courses are planned and they're going to run until April. And they are planned to be delivered online. If we get a chance at some point, we may look at bringing people in, but at the moment we just couldn't confirm that. So maybe watch this space on that one. And yeah, I think that's it on the chat. Perfect. And more in the Q&A. No more questions for the moment. Keep them coming. And thanks to you, Ronan and Karen as well. Lots to think about.
I'm wondering from the list of names of attendees, has anybody decided they're absolutely doing it? And I'll be meeting them in a few weeks. And no, Noel, you can't do the course again. Good man, Ronan.
Do you have to be unemployed to participate? No, you do not. So you there's a lot of eligibility criteria on the Springboard website, but basically if you are in employment, then you just need to provide a copy of your recent P60 or a letter from your employer stating that you're in employment, and then you do need to pay 10% of the course fee. And for this, that works out at, I think, approximately €300. It's yeah, it's not more. Ronan, your full initials are RPL. That, yeah, it might help you, but we'll also need you to demonstrate your experience to date. I will think it over and reach out to you if you decide to apply. Yeah, no problem, Artem. Thinking about doing it, great stuff. Artem said back a few moments ago that his concern is funding. So, I mean, one of the great things about this course, because they're Springboard funded, it's either completely free or it's that 10%, which, as I say, is around the €300 mark. So, yeah, that's really why these courses are, you know, so sought after. But that's not usually an issue if you are one the place.
Yeah, can I just say that was, you know, an issue for me as well, or wondering about the financial side of it. And the Springboard funding was great. I ended up paying 10% in the end, but for, you know, the fees are substantial. So it's amazing to, you know what I mean, that you can, you know, have backup financially, which is brilliant. It makes a huge difference as a creative. Definitely.
Again, I'm somebody who's done a course like this, and I didn't pay anything because I wasn't working at the time. So it's very nice to get something like this free and at a Trinity College standard. So apart from the session times, what is the recommended time commitment? So yeah, there's those 4 hours a week online. Carl, you might answer this better than me. I would say another 2 or 3 hours, depending on what coursework is happening, what project work is happening.
Yeah, so the different modules will determine the kind of commitment that you would need, and then the different stages in the module. So the earlier stages of, say, for the likes of module 1, there isn't a huge amount of time commitment outside of the space bar, the kind of work you're doing on yourself. So the likes of your reflection processes, your extra reading. We are looking at preloading some of these sessions, so there will be online material. I think roughly we're talking about 30 minutes to an hour of online material in advance of sessions, but then there is the peer-to-peer learning aspect of that as well. And it's not so much that that's time boxed specifically, but it is recognized the level of contribution, and there are marks given over at the end. So there will be online discussions amongst the peers, the rest of your class group. What I would say where there is a bigger time commitment is towards the end of module 1, for example, where you're working on the host project and you have a pitch to put together and your research to do in that space. And it's not, again, it's not so much that, so some academic courses will say there's an expectation of 4 to 8 hours additional, in addition to it's not really set out in that context. It's not time boxed, but you should expect that there will be a reasonable level of commitment towards the end, certainly of module 1. And I think if I even mentioned lean business model canvases, Noel may shudder, but it's a fantastic tool. but again, because it's something outside of the usual creative space, it's tricky to get a hang of the first time you do it. I do them all day, every day with clients, and we just rattle them off, and you get used to it. But the first one is a hurdle for some people. So you may feel that you need to put in a huge amount of time, but in reality, and I'm sure Noel will remember this from the online sessions, allow yourself to be creative with it too. So it's not that the expectation is you're going to put in a standard 3 to 4 hours every week in addition to what you're doing in the room. It does vary, and there will be times where you'll have next to no additional hours, and then other times where you'll have more time, and that's usually towards the end of the modules. I know that's probably a how long is a piece of string answer for a how long is a piece of string question, but you know, it does vary across the course.
And I think as well, it's important to say that what you put in, you get out. And I'm going to use that in the context of well, 2 experiences, if you like, that I've observed. One is one group that we have in, or that we had in, when we had the luxury of having people in the space in Tangent, who we couldn't get out of the building after class. We literally were kicking them out to go to lock up, or at lunchtime to get them out of the space to let another group in. There was no requirement for them to be there, but they were working, I think, on the host project, and they were enjoying it so much, and they had committed to staying. So I thought that was really nice to see. We're not normally, as educators, the one trying to stop the learning, but we were in that position. And the other is, and it was one of this particular group, Carl, the creative and cultural groups, who come into the space to practice their presentations. You probably wouldn't have seen that, or would you? Because if we were around the building early.
Oh, I see everything.
So I was looking for a room one day and I couldn't find it because I had all these creative people in the rooms practicing. And again, I mean, this was hours before they were due to, you know, perform, if that's the right word. And I just thought, like, how fantastic is that? I mean, given that they were all set up, the space taken over, they had their whiteboards and their blackboards and their props and whatever. And it was amazing. So I do think it's a case of, you know, what you put in, you get out. And I don't mean that in terms of a grade. I mean that in terms of, you know, Noel will probably attest to that, what you actually get out of the course. So again, it's a bit of a how long is a piece of string answer. So
I'd like to take full responsibility for the high level of motivation that I offer, and a little bit of fear sprinkled in there as well. But what I will say is, though, that because part of my work is in Tangent, but almost any time I was in Tangent, even around the course, people from this particular course were in there at other events, were involved in the sort of the Tangent lifestyle, that becoming entrepreneurs, attending innovation events which are being hosted online at the moment. So it's not that you're just on this course in particular. The space does, it's a bit like Hotel California, you know, you never leave. And there are still students who I'm involved with who are messaging me about the projects that they've generated from there, or projects that they joined through the likes of Launchpad or Launchbox and the other sort of innovation events that are happening in this space. So it's, yeah, it is an interesting course in that it starts in the room, but then sort of bleeds out and starts to fill the rest of the space. But the real beauty of that is that there's space for you guys to meet online and have those sort of conversations that don't just fit within the immediate box of what we're doing.
I'll just answer that question verbally as I put it in the chat box there. But just to confirm that the course starts on the 28th of September. So it's going to be on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then on Mondays and Wednesdays for Galway. So Monday and Tuesday for Dublin, Monday and Wednesday for Galway. It begins on September 28th, but the application deadline is the 30th of August for RPL applicants and the 20th of August for those in receipt of the Level 8 Honours degree. Okay, so we'll perhaps give it a few more minutes to see if there's any final questions coming in. as I say, feel free to direct them to me tomorrow as well, or any other day on the Springboard email, springboard@tcd.ie.
I'm just wondering, would it be worth asking Noel to tell us about Little Green Thing, the Module 1 project, to give you a sense of why people spend so much time, where your time actually goes on the course?
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. Little Green Thing was a company that was set up to create soaps, essentially, Irish made, Irish produced, environmentally friendly, and they had, I wish I'd brought them with me now because I actually have them downstairs, but they had little literary quotes and pictures of, you know, famous Irish people on them as well. But the level of research that we had to go into, going out in the street with a clipboard, chatting to people, meeting, it was actually very exciting, but just creating the whole business concept, it was a real learning curve, I think, for everybody. But you actually really get pulled into it, and you actually begin to enjoy it because it's fun, and you're creating something, and the level of, you know, creativity that's going on in all the little groups and everything else. It was an incredible experience, and I happened to be part of the group that won on the presentation night, I think, I remember, even though I wasn't there in the room. I had a gig in London, so I did a little recording or whatever. But it's incredible, and you think, well, how do we do this? Well, how are we going to do it? But you know, you have your guidelines as to what you need to do, and then you figure it out, and it's a great group kind of experience to create a product, to market it, to test it, and then do a presentation. And it was, yeah, the time does get eaten up, you know, and then you've got to put in the report. But it was, yeah, just about the time thing in terms of the study. It does vary from module to module. It is a little bit top heavy towards the end as you're coming closer, but it's doable. You know, it is a part-time course, and I was able to balance my creative work with it, and I was fully subscribed throughout. So you know, you find, and you also, particularly in the group projects, you have other people with you. So, you know, you're able to delegate, you're able to pick a job, an assignment that you need to do for the group project. So the reading sometimes can be tricky. So it would be great to, what you were saying, Carl, about having the reading online, the 30 minutes, I think that's a great idea. That would really help. Because one of the things I struggled with was finding the reading. If there was research, you know, accessing, that takes a lot of time in terms of research. But it's doable. It's a part-time course, and that's the beauty of it, you know. But yeah, Little Green Thing, yeah, it was great.
I've been on judging panels for an awful lot of different innovation events and product launches and things like that, and so have the judges who were there in the evening, and we were blown away by the quality of the pitches. Now, I have a really high standard of expectation. I push people quite hard in these spaces, but we were genuinely blown away by the quality of the pitches right across the board. And you know, some of the people who came in to judge are based in the entrepreneurial space and more in the business space. And one of the statements that really stuck with me was, I would have no problem putting them forward to pitch for finance in any other setting. And I think it was a bit of a shock maybe to the judges in that space that creatives were able to put together a pitch that was, yes, creative, but also really nailed the business element of it, you know. And it was incredibly rewarding to see everybody pitch that night and how well it went and how well they did, you know.
Well, I think we were nurtured to really tap into our creativity as well, I think, which helps. You know what I mean? Rather than going, put that aside now and purely think in a business way, it was that lovely balance of the two. And that's what you really learn. And I think that's really exciting. You know what I mean? It's not throwing out the creativity. It's actually getting deeper and deeper into your practice. And I think that's really significant.
Yeah, having access to that creativity in your toolbox expands your capabilities. And this is sometimes what people don't realize when they've come through an academic track or been involved in a creative practice for a long time, that you're surrounded by people who are almost pushing you into a space where to be a creative. And what we're looking to do is sort of, and certainly what I do, is aim to unpack that and deconstruct that kind of thinking and get people to recognize that, no, these are extra tools we have. We can do the business stuff isn't that difficult. And in fact, the creative capacity that we have enlivens our ability in the business space. You know, it's something that for far too long people have neglected those capabilities that they have in play. So that's certainly a major feature of Module 1 that we look to tap into.
Well, we might finish up there if there are no more questions to come in. Give it another minute or so, but hopefully everybody feels a little bit more informed than an hour ago. And always, we're here, I'm here if there's further questions, so don't be shy.
Aileen is asking there if the recording is available afterwards.
Yes. Rosemary, I'm not sure where they can access it, but this is being recorded. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, we can send on the link to everybody. We'll have it recorded, yes.
Okay. So yes, it's being recorded and we can send the link on. Okay, perfect. Thank you. No problem, Aileen, for being late. Happy to have you on the call. And a big thank you again to Carl and Noel for joining us on the call. It really is so great to have you here. You know the course inside out better than I do, and no better person to speak about it than the lead facilitator and one of our students. So congratulations, Noel, on finishing the course as well. I didn't get a chance to say that to you. So all your hard work paid off. So well done and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll be watching this space now, Noel. We'll be watching for your name. Well done. And thanks, Carl. And thanks, Jane, as well, for facilitating this evening.
No problem. No problem.